234 Sunset Avenue, a house where Dr. King lived until his final days, right here.
Few people have experienced the civil rights movement like Tom Houck.
I talked with Coretta for several hours, and then she asked me, just out of the blue, if I had my license, and I said, sure. She said, well, I've had a driver, and I've had some problems with him. Would you mind taking the kids to school tomorrow?
At 19, Tom got a front seat to history as the King family personal driver. He went to Nathan Forrest High School, named for an early member of the Ku Klux Klan. But when he tried rallying students to change the name, he was kicked out.
I was in Mississippi and Alabama and worked the summer of '65, and then eventually joining SCLC as a staff member.
For about a year, Tom spent long hours driving with Dr. King through the streets of Atlanta.
Dr. King would go in there and buy cigarettes in there. This was across the street here, the old American Legion. Dr. King would let his hair hang out, so to speak, have a beer with the guys and the staff.
So Martin Luther King was actually a pretty decent driver?
Yeah, he was a great driver. He had a heavy foot.
He shows us a side of Dr. King that the history books leave out. Those personal moments away from the spotlight that helped shape the man behind the legend.
And that was the where Coretta and Martin and friends would go to hear great jazz. I mean, I can sit here today and I can see Dr. King up there. I can see Coretta sitting down in this pew down here in the aisles. This is where the funeral was held, by the way, before the march down to Morehouse. And I mean, the church was packed. And this is where Coretta was seen with her black veil.
While Dr. King's church is now maintained by the National Park Service, many places where he lived his everyday life are either gone or dilapidated.
This is the old Butler Street Y, in disrepair, as you can see. Dr. King used to be a swimming pool over there. He used to take the kids over there swimming. And this is Dr. King's old office. Now it's vacant. This used to be a street here called Johnson Avenue, okay? And 563 Johnson Avenue was a house that Daddy King had lived in. It's been torn down now to build what ultimately wound up being Freedom Parkway.
Other places are hidden in plain sight. This job training facility was once an apartment building where Dr. King had a private studio.
This was kind of his place they would get away from things. Very few people ever knew about this location.
Driving around Atlanta, Dr. King's name is etched on buildings, street signs, and memorials. But really, Dr. King's indelible mark is the one he left on those who knew him.
I learned, to appreciate, the struggle for justice and what that entailed, and what it meant to be, a nonviolent warrior for social change.